Hey everybody. Tonight we are going to have a look here at my native tank. We're going to do a little feeding video. This is going to be the first feeding video I've done since I made my changes. I've got a new air stone down here, and then I turned the light off at this end of the tank. I asked if everybody liked it better with or without, and unanimously everyone said they liked it better without. Not a single person said they liked the tank better with the light on this end of the tank. So I agree, and I've not turned it back on since. Now that I've gotten used to it, this is just the way the tank looks to me. So I've got an extra light fixture that I'll have to figure out something to do with, or perhaps just keep it as a spare. But tonight we're going to do a feeding video, and we're going to go from this to possibly some drama here in a few minutes. So let's see what happens. We're going to just sprinkle some crumbled up algae wafers. That's 2 algae wafers and a bunch of shrimp pellets. I know that looks like a lot, and it kind of is, but there's a lot of animals in this tank. So once that all makes its way to the bottom, and a good deal of it will, the crayfish should start coming out of the woodwork here any minute now, and that's when it should get interesting. So we've got a couple little ones down here. Got that one. There's one. There's another one over here. There's another one back there. I have over a dozen of them in the tank, and I'm really surprised that I haven't had any issues with them. I think this tank is big enough and has enough cover. Well, we're getting a little bit of fighting going on right there. The big one's trying to get those little crayfish out from underneath. So that's the one with one claw, and the fact that it only has one claw, that one's even bitten in half. Things tend to get a little nuts once the food goes in the tank. This one's going to be backing his way down into some bad news down here if he keeps going. It's good to see my little warmouth down there getting, boy, look at the size of his mouth. He has got an enormous chunk of algae wafer in his mouth. Good Lord. Oh, here he comes. He's still got it too. If you've followed along with this tank since I've got that little fish, you'll know that I once had trouble getting him to eat. And he was getting so skinny I was really worried about him, and now he's swimming around with a chunk of algae wafer in his mouth so big I don't know what he's going to do with it. There he goes, he spit it out, but boy, that is incredible. Well, that definitely makes me happy. I've said for a while now that I no longer worry about him surviving. He can definitely hold his own in the tank, and that sure proves it. So that was good to see. And it looks like this big one-clawed crayfish here found some algae wafer and has pulled it back into a spot. Or perhaps not. I'm telling you, one of these days I'm going to catch a crayfish actually grabbing a fish right out of the water before our very eyes. If you can see behind that one, you can see the egg crate plastic back there. This one's dug all the way back down to the bottom. I'm not sure where my really big one is, but somewhere in here there's one that is actually bigger than this one-clawed crayfish. I don't know which fight to cover. Oh, this is a good one because he's got a claw there. This is how they lose claws. And it looks like the sunfish is waiting to see some claws fly. Maybe he's going to get a free meal out of it. The sunfish is definitely going to be going soon. He's getting really territorial towards my tilapia here, and I've grown quite fond of that tilapia. I may wind up keeping it in the tank for as long as I can. In fact, I probably will at this point. I don't know why I say I may. Pretty much decided that's what I'm going to do. The Mayan cichlid is the same case. I'm going to keep the Mayan cichlid for as long as I can. It will become too large and aggressive at some point. It's a good way to escape. Fly up into the air and then hang onto a branch. So for all the times I've said crayfish are good climbers, I think that speaks for itself. Not only did it just fling up into the wood from a panic off the bottom, but was able to grab a hold and then scurry up it like that. That was pretty impressive. And I can still see my little warmouth over there. Still has his trophy giant piece of algae wafer. So that'll soften up over time, and that'll be quite a meal for that little fish. So once again, yay. That makes me happy. Really wonder where my large one went, because not only is it just big and impressive looking, it's a really beautiful fish. I mean crayfish. So these two are still waiting to go at it. There's a good look at the tilapia. So at the rate this tilapia is going, it's not going to be long before it's pushing that sunfish around. Although, I don't know how aggressive tilapias are. Just because they get big doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be very aggressive. I do know how aggressive sunfish are, and it is very. So it's probably going to still be the sunfish chasing the tilapia around no matter what. And there's that Mayan cichlid, which is really a stunning fish. That gives you a little bit of a look at how its colors are starting to come in. It's like those chameleon colors. When you look at it from one direction, it looks one way, and then you look at it from a different angle, and the colors completely change. So that's going to be a really impressive fish as it gets bigger. So again, I'm probably going to wind up keeping that for as long as I can, but eventually it is simply going to become too big and aggressive for this tank, and I'm going to have to do something about it. And then again, that stupid sunfish is chasing everybody around. So the sunfish is probably going to go pretty soon. I still don't know what I'm going to do with this tank. I'm really beginning to think I don't even want to put a bass in here for any length of time at all, even just for a little while. Maybe I'll put a really small one in, one that's not much larger than the minnows and can't do a lot of damage for a while. If I catch maybe a small perch, a really small white perch, a really small yellow perch, something like that might not be too bad of an idea. I don't really know how aggressive a perch would be, but I suspect if I got a fairly small one, we wouldn't have to worry too much about the amount of damage it could do. And of course, ultimately, these are minnows I can just go catch down the street any old time I want. So whatever I wind up doing, it won't be any really big deal. And I guess that's going to be pretty much the bulk of the action there. It doesn't take too long for everybody to get the food all sorted out and who's who and what's what. So there you go. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe. You never know what you're going to get with me. It's usually something good. And we'll get one last attack moment. Don't forget, this is my native tank. And hopefully that sunfish won't be in here too much longer. But thanks again, everybody.